couple of bites on the back of behind my ear here, 2 of them. And it's like behind my ear. You can see this ear sticking out some. All righty. I'm going to put my fan on because it's I've had a busy day. I went out and worked on the garden today. Weeding has begun because of the amount of, the sheer amount of rain we had. We had some real heavy rain there last night. We had a bit of hail, but it wasn't bad. So, whoo! But there'll be a video on our half-acre homestead tomorrow. Oi. Sorry, folks. All right. 2 minutes to start. Before we start, I should say. Yeah. It's me and I swell right up with black flies. Mosquitoes are no better, but I mean, I went out earlier and the breeze was enough for me to get half of what I wanted done. And then I came back in and I sat down for a little bit. And then when I felt rested, I went back out and I did some more. So I did pretty good. It's itchy, it's swollen. It's just 2 little bites, but it's swollen from here to here. Hey, Barefoot Chickens, how's it going? I'm going to wait a little bit because I usually come on at 9. And Howie's gone out to bed. He's back in the coach now where he can sleep in air conditioning and all that lovely stuff. Hey, Linda. Okay, honey. I'm just getting myself rolled here. Oi. Oh, and there goes my back. Every night. Every night. Excuse me. I gotta itch my back. I swear there's this one spot that just drives me nuts. Oh. Thank you, Linda. I can't do it up and down because if I turn sideways, my back goes like this. But I can do it sideways where I hit the high spots and the low spots. But I have to do it horizontally. I can't go up and down this way. All right. Commercial is over now. Awesome. I'm going to leave it for a couple of minutes because, people are still coming in. I got my 3 packages of ground pork replaced. And as soon as I find out, I've got a vacuum sealer coming from another company who wants me to preview it. And I'm just happy to say yes because my vacuum sealer's dying. Hi, Karen. Hey, Barefoot Chickens. Weed Bee and Linda Bob. Let me put it on live chat. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to make... Now, I can't thaw out pork and then season it and freeze it. That's a recipe for bacterial. It's a recipe for food poisoning. But what I am going to do is I'm thinking of making sausage balls and cooking them and vacuum sealing them, and then sausage patties and cooking them and vacuum sealing them. So we'll see. I may even make sausage patties and can them. There is a way you can do it. Especially if the sausage meat is as spicy as the last one I made. It was really spicy. And all you have to do is cook them and then put them in a wide mouth jar, a wide mouth pint, cook them, make sure they fit, and then cook them and then put them in there. And you can use beef stock. I have bone broth that I'll probably can them in. Won't that be delicious? It's just pure plain bone broth. And I'll use it to can sausage patties is what I'm thinking. What do you think? 6:30 tomorrow morning. That's right. Tomorrow's the 24th for Matt's cataract surgery. It'll be fine. Just don't let him do too much. He's got to lay back and rest and relax and all that stuff to make sure that it stays in place. Right? Well, I don't know. That could just be me. My mother-in-law had cataract surgery 10 years ago. And that's kind of how it went. All right. I'm just about ready here, folks. Just about ready. If you have to leave early, Linda, because you need to go to bed early, don't you worry about it. Seashell's got me. Okay? Just saying. Sorry. I have to roll my bedtime medication, or I will not sleep tonight. One of the things I love about Howie sleeping in the coach, his man cave in the summertime, he gets air conditioning and a good night's rest. And I don't have to get up and make him breakfast at 5 o'clock in the morning. So I go to bed, when I get up, I'm up for the day. I don't have to try and go back to sleep. I'm working on getting up at around between 9:30 and 10 in the morning, because my body, even though I'm not getting up and making Howie breakfast and his lunch at 5 o'clock in the morning, my body's still there. So I wake up every morning at 5 o'clock, put Gracie up for a pee, grab a cup of tea and a piece of toast and go back to bed. But it's going to change so that I'm actually going to sleep through that soon. Believe me, he will do exactly what the doctor says. Hey, Rachel, okay. Sorry if I just wanted to make sure everyone got in, and then I got a chance to say hi to everybody before I started reading, because I know it's, I just want to go to bed early tonight. And early for me is like 10 o'clock. Early for me, sometimes I'm in bed at 7:30, right? What's today? Tomorrow night I won't be. Saturday I won't be, right? Poor Howie is down in the dumps. He has this, just like everybody. Everybody gets depressed and down in the dumps sooner or later. And about twice a year, Howie does. And there's so many things he wants to do, so many things he has to do. And it's just a little overwhelming for him right now. Like he's got to finish the roof. He's got to do the basement floor before winter. Well, the basement floor can almost wait until winter, right? But that, you know what I mean? And then comes the firewood, and then there's racing, So, God, I love my accountant. He emailed me today and said, got this stuff. Didn't you pay for advertising this year? I said, yeah. I got my stickers are on the car. I didn't get new ones this year because we weren't sure if we were painting the car or not. And he said, well, what do you pay for your stickers every year? $1,500. Right? It's like, oh. He said, do you not have fees for banking? Yeah. Well, do you add those up and put them in your taxes? Like, oh, what would I do without my accountant? And I've never even met the man. Never even met the man. Never even heard of his voice. We met through a friend by email, and he's been doing my taxes ever since. I wouldn't be able to do it otherwise. All right. Here we go. Oh, darn. Sorry I'm taking so long. What's going on? Shell, what's going on? Tomorrow's Freaky Friday, so we really need to... I don't know about anybody else, but has everybody noticed everybody seems to be going through hard times right now? And I just don't mean financially. I mean mentally and emotionally. We're all kind of going, how much... Like, it's almost like we're being worn down by all just the constant batter of stuff that's going on in the world. I have not heard back from the bird feeder people. And as soon as I do, you'll get your video with the coupon codes and the links. But I haven't got that yet. So I'm not putting the video out until they, And I still haven't figured out how to live stream it yet. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry to hear that. You know, have you noticed that there's people losing a lot of people this year? No, no, Linda, you're not going to lose Matt. It's friggin' cataract surgery. Um, but I've noticed, that people have lost a lot of people lately. People are dying. It's really weird, right? Like I know someone who's lost 3 family members in a matter of a week and a half. I mean, and I mean, maybe it's just because we're getting old. He had a challenging life, love him like a brother. Well, then he's at peace, isn't he? Okay? Okay. All right. Little Women Live, chapter 3. Oh, wait a minute now. Yeah, I'm all over the place tonight. I spent an hour in the garden and then another hour in the garden this afternoon. I spent 2 hours in the garden today. And just getting in and out of the garden and coming in and out of the house and doing it twice is a lot of work. Right. I want to save this to the playlist. There we go. I just wanted to make sure I had that saved to the playlist. Alrighty. Little Women Live. Oops. I love this lamp that I did. I just love this. It's like all over the place. I can do so many things with it. Two lamps that didn't quite work made one good one that did. Chapter 33, Joe's Journal, November, New York. Dear Marmee and Beth, I'm going to write you a regular volume, for I've got heaps to tell, though I'm not a fine young lady traveling on the continent. When I lost sight of Father's dear old face, I felt a trifle blue, and might have shed a briny drop or two. If an Irish lady with 4 small children, all crying more or less, hadn't diverted my mind, for I amuse myself by dropping gingerbread nuts over the seat every time they open their mouths to roar. Soon the sun came out, and taking it as a good omen, I cleared up likewise, and enjoyed my journey with all my heart. Mrs. Kirk welcomed me so kindly, I felt at home at once, even in that big house full of strangers. She gave me a funny little sky parlor, all she had, but there is a stove in it and a nice table and a sunny window, so I can sit here and write whenever I like. A fine view and a church tower opposite atone for many stairs, and I took a fancy to my den on the spot. Kind of like her attic kitchen, eh? The nursery where I'm to teach and sew is a pleasant room next to Mrs. Kirk's private parlor. And the 2 little girls are pretty children, rather spoiled, I fancy, but they took to me after telling them the 7 bad pigs, and I have no doubt I shall make a model governess. I'm to have my meals with the children if I prefer it to the great table, and for the present I do, for I am bashful, though no one will believe it. Now, my dear, make yourself at home, said Mrs. K in her motherly way. I'm on the drive from morning to night, as you may suppose, with such a family. But a great anxiety will be off my mind if I know the children are safe with you. My rooms are always open to you, and your own shall be as comfortable as I can make it. There are some pleasant people in the house if you feel sociable, and your evenings are always free. Come to me if anything goes wrong, and be as happy as you can. There's the tea bell. I must run and change my cap. And off she bustled, leaving me to settle myself in my new nest. Hang on, folks. I gotta fix my chair here. Actually, I have to fix my position in the chair. Oh! Sorry, folks. My knees have had they're done in today. Okay. Leaving me to settle myself in my new nest. As I went downstairs soon after, I saw something I liked. The flights are very long in this tall house, and as I stood waiting at the head of the 3rd third one for a little serving girl to lumber up, I saw a gentleman come along behind her, take the heavy hod of coal out of her hand and carry it all the way up, put it down at a door nearby, and walk away, saying with a kind nod in a foreign accent, "It goes better so. With the little back is too young. Okay, it is better so. The little back is too young to have such heaviness." Wasn't it good of him? I like such things, for his father says trifles show character. When I mentioned it to Mrs. K that evening, she laughed and said, "That must have been Professor Bear. He's always doing things of that sort." Mrs. K told me he was from Berlin, very learned and good, but poor as a church mouse, and gives lessons to support himself and the two little orphan nephews whom he is educating here, according to the wishes of his sister, who married an American. Not a very romantic story, but it interested me, and I was glad to hear that Mrs. K lends him her parlor for some of his scholars. There is a glass door between it and the nursery, and I mean to peep at him and then tell you how he looks. He's almost 40, so it's no harm, Marmee. After tea, I'm sorry, folks. It is time. Next to the bra coming off, the hair coming down, is when I start to relax. Oh, sorry. It's just got to be done. Oh, it just feels untended and uncared for. Oh, there. Oh, yes. Oh, marvelous, darling. Simply marvelous. There we go. All right, here we go. He's almost 40, so it's no harm, Marmee. After tea and a go-to-bed romp with the little girls, I attacked the big work basket and had a quiet evening chatting with my new friend. I shall keep a journal later and send it once a week. So good night and more tomorrow. Tuesday Eve. Had a lively time in my seminary this morning, for the children acted like Sancho, and at one time I really thought I could shake them all around. Some good angel inspired me to try gymnastics, and I kept it up until they were glad to sit down and keep still. After luncheon, the girl took them out for a walk, and I went to my needlework like little Mabel, and a willing mind. I was thanking my stars that I had learned to make nice buttonholes when the parlor door opened and shut and someone began to hum. "Kannst du das the land?" Like a big bumblebee. It was dreadfully improper, I know, but I couldn't resist the temptation, and lifting up one end of the curtain before the glass door, I peeped in. Professor Bear was there, and while he arranged his books, I took a good look at him. A regular German. Rather stout, with brown hair tumbled all over his head, a bushy beard, a good nose, and the kindest eyes I ever saw, and a splendid big voice that does one's ears good. After our sharp or slipshod American gabble, which does one's ears good after our sharp or slipshod American gabble. His clothes were rusty, his hands large, and he hadn't really a handsome feature in his face except his beautiful teeth. Yet I liked him, for he had a fine head. His linen was very nice, and he looked like a gentleman, though 2 buttons were off his coat, and there was a patch on one shoe. He looked sober in spite of his humming, till he went to the window to turn the hyacinth bulbs toward the sun, and stroke the cat, who received him like an old friend. Then he smiled, and when a tap came on the door, called out in a loud, brisk tone, "Herein!" I was just going to run when I caught sight of a morsel of a child carrying a big book and stopped to see what was going on. "Me wants my bear," said the mite, slamming down her book and running to meet him. "Thou shalt have thy bear. Come then and take a good hug from him, my Tina," said the professor. I'm sorry if my accent is crap, okay? But it's spelt in accent. So, catching her up with a laugh and holding her so high over his head that she had to stoop her little face to kiss him. "Now me must study my lesson. Went on the funny little thing. Now me must study my lesson. Went on the funny little thing. So he put her up on the table, opened a great dictionary she had brought, and gave her a paper and a pencil, and she scribbled away, turning a leaf now and then, and passing her fat little finger down the page as if finding a word, so soberly that I nearly betrayed myself by a laugh. While Mr. Bear stood stroking her pretty hair with a fatherly look that made me think she must be his own, though she looked more French than German. Another knock and the appearance of two young ladies sent me back to my work, and there I virtuously remained through all the noise and gabbing that went on next door. One of the girls kept laughing affectedly and saying, "Now, Professor," in a coquettish tone, and the other one pronounced her German with an accent that must have made it hard for him to keep sober. Probably like he'd heard mine, if he'd heard mine. Both seemed to try his patience sorely, for more than once I heard him say emphatically, "No, it is not so. You have not attend to what I say." And once there was a loud rap as if he struck the table with his book, followed by the despairing exclamation, "Prut! Oh, it all goes bad this day." Poor man, I pitied him, and when the girls were gone, just took just one more peep to see if he survived it. He seemed to have thrown himself back in his chair, tired out, and sat there with his eyes shut till the clock struck 2. Then he jumped up, put his books in his pocket as if ready for another lesson, and taking little Tina, who had fallen asleep on the sofa, in his arms, carried her quietly away. I fancy he has had a hard life of it. Mrs. Kirk asked me if I would go down to the 5 o'clock dinner, and feeling a little homesick, I thought I would, just to see what sort of people are under the same roof with me. So I made myself respectable and tried to slip in behind Mrs. Kirk, but as she is short and I am tall, my efforts at concealment were a rather failure. She gave me a seat by her, and after my face cooled off, I plucked up courage and looked about me. The long table was full, and everyone intent on getting their dinner. The gentlemen especially, who seemed to be eating on time, for they bolted in every sense of the word, vanishing as soon as they were done. There was the usual assortment of young men absorbed in themselves, young couples absorbed in each other, and married ladies in their babies, and old gentlemen in politics. Must have been a pretty big boarding house, eh? I don't think I shall care to have much to do with any of them, except the one sweet-faced maiden lady who looks as if she had something in her. Cast away at the very bottom of the table was the professor, shouting answers to the questions of a very inquisitive deaf old gentleman to one side, and talking philosophically with a Frenchman on the other. If Amy had been here, she'd have turned her back on him forever, because, sad to relate, he had a great appetite and shoveled in his dinner in a manner which would have horrified her ladyship. I didn't mind, for I like to see folks eat with relish, as Hannah says, and the poor man must have needed a good deal of food after teaching idiots all day. Hi, Cat! As I went upstairs after dinner, 2 of the young men were settling their hats before the hall mirror, and I heard one say low to the other, "Who's the new party?" "Governess or something of that sort." "What the deuce is she at our table for?" "Friend of the old lady's. Handsome head, but no style." "Not a bit of it. Give us a light and come on." I felt angry at first, and then I didn't care, for a governess as good as a clerk, and I've got sense if I haven't style, which is more than some people have, judging from the remarks of the elegant beings who clattered away smoking like chimneys. I hate ordinary people. Thursday. Yesterday was a quiet day, spent in teaching, sewing, and writing in my little room, which is very cozy, with a light and a fire. I picked up a few bits of news and was introduced to the professor. It seems that Tina is the child of the French woman who does the fine ironing and the laundry here. The little thing has lost her heart to Mr. Bear and follows him around the house like a dog whenever he's at home, which delights him, as he is very fond of children, though a bachelor. Though a bachelor, Kitty and Minnie Kirk likewise regard him with affection, and tell all sorts of stories about plays he invents and then presents he brings, and the splendid tales he tells. The young men quiz him, it seems, call him Old Fritz, Lager Beer, Ursa Major, and make all manner of jokes on his name. But he enjoys it like a boy. Mrs. K says it takes Mrs. K says and takes it so good-naturedly that they all like him in spite of his foreign ways. The maiden lady is Miss Norton, rich, cultivated, and kind. She spoke to me at dinner today, for I went to the table again, it's such fun to watch people, and asked me to come and see her at her room. She has fine books and pictures, knows interesting persons, and seems friendly, so I shall make myself agreeable. For I do want to get into good society, only it isn't the same sort that Amy likes. I was in our parlor last evening when Mr. Bear came in with some newspapers for Mrs. Kirk. She wasn't there, but Minnie, who is the little old woman, introduced me very prettily. This is Mamma's friend, Miss March. Yes, and she's jolly, and we like her lots, added Kitty, who is an enfant terrible, terrible child. We both bowed, and then we laughed, for the prim introduction and the blunt addition were rather comical contrast. Ah, yes, I hear these naughty ones go to vex you, Miss March. If so again, call at me, and I come, he said with a threatening frown that delighted the little wretches. I promised I would, and he departed, but it seems as if I was doomed to see a good deal of him, for today, as I passed his door on my way out, by accident, I knocked against it with my umbrella, and it flew open, and there he stood in his dressing gown with a big blue sock in one hand and a darning needle in the other. He didn't seem at all ashamed of it, for when I explained and hurried on, he waved his hand, sock and all, saying in a loud, cheerful way, "You have a fine day to make your walk. Bon voyage, mademoiselle." I laughed all the way downstairs, but it was a little pathetic, also to think of the poor man having to mend his own clothes. The German gentleman embroiderer, I know, but darning hose is another thing and not so pretty. Saturday. Nothing has happened to write about except a call on Miss Norton, who has a room full of lovely things and who is all very charming, for she showed me all her treasures and asked me if I would sometimes go with her to lectures and concerts as her escort, if I enjoyed them. She put it as a favor, but I'm sure Mrs. Kirk has told her about us, and she does it out of kindness to me. I'm as proud as Lucifer, but such favors from such people don't burden me, and I accepted gratefully. When I got back to the nursery, there was such an uproar in the parlor that I looked in, and there was Mr. Bear down on his hands and knees, with Tina on his back, Kitty leading him with a jump rope, and Minnie feeding two small boys with seed cakes as they roared and ramped in cages built of chairs. "We are playing Nagerie," said Kitty. "This is mine enfant," added Tina. This is my effluent. That's what she said. "This is my effluent," added Tina, holding on to the professor's hair. "Mama always allows us to do what we like Saturday afternoon when Franz and Emile come home, doesn't she, Mr. Bear?" said Minnie. The effluent sat up, looking as much in earnest as any of them, and said soberly to me, "I give you my word it is so. If we make too large a noise, you shall say hush to us, and we will go more softly." "Oh, well, thank you. I just, sometimes it just wants to be down and be brushed, but I put it up for bed, too. So once it gets longer, I'll be able to braid it better for bedtime. I promised to do so, but left the door open and enjoyed the fun as much as they did, for a more glorious frolic I never witnessed. They played tag and soldiers and danced and sung, and when it began to grow dark, they all piled on the sofa about the professor, while he told charming fairy tales of the storks on the chimney tops and the little kobolds who ride the snowflakes as they fall. I wish Americans were simple and natural as Germans, don't you? I'm so fond of writing, I should go on spinning forever if my motives of economy didn't stop me. For though I've used thin paper and written fine, I tremble to think of the stamps this long letter will need. Pray forward Amy's as soon as you can spare them. My small news will sound very flat after her splendors, but you will like them, I know. Is Teddy studying so hard he can't find time to write to his friends? Take good care of him for me. Take good care of him for me, Beth, and tell me all about the babies and give heaps of love to everyone from your faithful Joe. P.S. On reading over my letter, it strikes me as rather buried. But I'm always so interested in odd people, and I really had nothing else to write about. Bless you. December. My precious Betsy, as this is to be a scribble-scrabble letter, I direct it to you, for it may amuse you and give you some idea of my goings-on. Right. For though quiet, they are rather amusing, for which, oh, be joyful, after that Amy would call Herculean efforts in my way of mental and moral agriculture, my young ideas begin to shoot and my little twigs to bend as I could wish. They are not so interesting to me as Tina and the boys, but I do my duty by them, and they are fond of me. France and Emile are jolly little lads, quite after my own heart, for the mixture of German and American spirit in them produces a constant state of effervescence. That's the professor's nephews, right? Saturday afternoon are riotous times, whether spent in the house or out. For on pleasant days they all go out to walk like a seminary, with the professor and myself to keep order, and they are such fun. We are very good friends now, and I've begun to take lessons. I really couldn't help it, and it all came about in such a droll way that I must tell you. To begin at the beginning, Mrs. Kirk called to me one day as I passed Mr. Bear's room where she was rummaging. "Did you ever see such a den, my dear? Just come and help me put these books to rights, for I've turned everything upside down trying to discover what he has done with the 6 new handkerchiefs I gave him not long ago." I went in, and while she worked, I looked about me, for it was a den, to be sure. Books and papers everywhere. A broken meerschaum, an old flute over the mantelpiece, as if done with. A ragged bird without any tail chirped on one window seat, and a box of white... A no-see-em just flew through the screen and bit me. And a box of white mice adorned the other. Half-finished boats and bits of string lay among the manuscripts. Dirty little boots stood drying before the fire, and traces of the dearly beloved toys for whom he makes a slave of himself were to be seen all over the room. Now I'm getting hot, you see. With my hair down, I'm getting hot. But it felt so good to scratch it out. Oh. Oh. And this is how I wear it to bed. Somewhat loose. That's how I wear it most of the time. Half the time I'm too fussy to put it up in a tail. Hang on, folks. Alrighty. Dirty little boots stood drying before the fire, and traces of the dearly beloved toys for whom he makes a slave of himself were to be seen all over the room. After a grand rummage, 3 of the missing articles were found, one over the birdcage, one covered with ink, and a third burnt brown, having been used as a holder. "Such a man," laughed good-natured Mrs. K, as she put the relics in the rag bag. "I suppose the others are torn up to rig ships, bandage cut fingers, or make kite tails. It's dreadful, but I can't scold him. He's so absent-minded and good-natured, he lets those boys ride over him roughshod. I agree to do his washing and mending, but he forgets to give out his things, and I forget to look them over, so he comes to a sad pass sometimes. 'Let me mend them,' I said. I don't mind it, and he needn't know. I'd like to. He's so kind to me about bringing my letters and lending books. So I have got his things in order, and knit heels into 2 pairs of the socks. Okay, so I've got his things in order. And knit heels into 2 pairs of the socks, for they were boggled out of shape with his queer darns. Nothing was said, and I hoped he wouldn't find out, but one day last week he caught me at it. Hearing the lessons he gives to others has interested and amused me so much that I took a fancy to learn. For Tina runs in and out, leaving the door open, and I can hear. I had been sitting near his door, finishing off the last sock and trying to understand what he said to a new scholar who is as stupid as I am. The girl had gone, and I thought he had also. It was so still, and I was busily gabbing over a verb and rocking to and fro in a most absurd way when a little crow made me look up, and there was Mr. Bear, looking and laughing quietly while he made signs to Tina not to betray him. "So," he said, as I stopped and stared like a goose, "you peep at me, I peep at you, and that is not bad. But see, am I not pleasanting when I say half you a wish for German?" "Yes, but you are too busy and I'm too stupid to learn," I blundered out, as red as a peony. "Prut! We will make the time, and we fail not to find the sense at evening. I shall give a little lesson with much gladness, for look you, Miss March, I have this debt to pay," and he pointed to my work. "Yes," they say to one another, these so kind ladies. "He's a stupid old fellow. He will see not what we do. He will never observe that his sock heels go not into holes anymore, and he will think his buttons grow where they fell off, and believe that strings make themselves. Ah, but I have an eye, and I see much. I have a heart, and I feel the thanks for this. Come, a little lesson then and now, or no more good fairy works for me and mine." Of course, I couldn't say anything after that, and as it really is a splendid opportunity, I made the bargain and we began. I took 4 lessons, and when I stuck fast in the grammaring bog, the professor was very patient with me. But it must have been a torment to him, and now and then he looked at me with such an expression of mild despair that it was a toss-up with me whether to laugh or cry. I tried both ways, and when it came to a sniff of utter mortification and woe, he just threw the grammar on the floor and marched out of the room. I felt myself disgraced and deserted forever, but didn't blame him a particle, and was scrambling my papers together, meaning to rush upstairs and shake myself hard, when he came in, as brisk and beaming as if I'd covered myself with glory. "Now we shall try a new way. You and I will read these pleasant little Martian together, and dig no more in that dry book, as it goes in the corner for making us trouble." He spoke so kindly and opened Hans. I loved Hans Christian Andersen. Hans Andersen's fairy tales so invitingly before me that I was more ashamed than ever, and went at my lesson at a neck-or-nothing style that seemed to amuse him immensely. I forgot my bashfulness and pegged away, no other way to express it, with all my might, tumbling over long words, pronouncing according to the inspiration of the minute, and doing my very best. When I finished reading my first page and stopped for breath, he clapped his hands and cried out in his hearty way, "Das ist gut! Now we go well. My turn." I do him in German, "Give me your ear." And away he went, rumbling out the words with his strong voice and a relish which was good to see as well as hear. Fortunately, the story was The Constant Tin Soldier, which is droll, you know, so I could laugh, and I did. Though I didn't understand half what he read, for I couldn't help it. He was so earnest, and I so excited, and the whole thing so comical. After that, we got on better, and I now read my lessons pretty well, for this way of studying suits me, and I can see that the grammar gets tucked into the tales and poetry as if one gives pills in jelly or hot dogs. I like it very much, and he doesn't seem tired of it yet, which is very good of him, isn't it? I mean to give him something on Christmas, for I dare not offer money. Tell me something nice, Marmee. I'm glad Laurie seems so happy and busy that he has given up smoking and lets his hair grow. You see, Beth manages him better than I did. I'm not jealous, dear. Do your best and don't make a saint of him. I'm afraid I couldn't like him without a spice of a human naughtiness. Read him bits of my letters. I haven't time to write much, and that will do just as well. Thank heaven Beth continues so comfortable. January. As happy as a happy new year to you all, my dearest family, which of course includes Mr. L and a young man by the name of Teddy. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed your Christmas bundle, for I didn't get it till night and had given up hoping. Your letter came in the morning, but you said nothing about a parcel, meaning it for a surprise. So I was disappointed, for I had a kind of feeling that you wouldn't forget me. I felt a little low in my mind as I sat up in my room after tea, and when the big, muddy, battered-looking bundle was brought to me, I just hugged it and pranced. It was so homey and refreshing that I sat down on the floor and read and looked and ate and laughed and cried in my usual absurd way. The things were just what I wanted, and all the better for being made instead of bought. Beth's new ink bib was capital, and Hannah's box of hard gingerbread will be a treasure. I'll be sure to wear the nice flannels you sent, Marmee, and read carefully the books Father has marked. Thank you all heaps and heaps. Speaking of books reminds me that I'm getting rich in that line. It was tickling me. On New Year's Day, Mr. Bear gave me a fine Shakespeare. It is one he values much, and I've often admired it, set up in the place of honor with his German Bible, Plato, Homer, and Milton. So you may imagine how I felt when he brought it down without its cover and showed me my name in it. From my friend, Friedrich Bear. You say often you wish a library. Here I give you one. For between these lids, he meant covers, is many books in one. Read him well, and he will help you much. For the study of character in this book will help you read it in the world and paint it with your pen. I thanked him as well I could, and talked now about my library as if I had 100 books. I never knew how much there was in Shakespeare before. But then, I never had a bear to explain it to me. Now don't laugh at his horrid name. It isn't pronounced either bear or beer, as people will say it, but something between the two. Beer. As only Germans can give it. I'm glad you both like what I tell you about him and hope you will know him someday. Mother would admire his warm heart, Father his wise head. I admire both and feel rich in my new friend, Friedrich Bear. Not having much money or knowing what he'd like, I got several little things and put them about the room where he would find them unexpectedly. They were useful, pretty, or funny. A new standish on his table, a little vase for his flower. He always has one. Or a bit of green glass to keep fresh, he says. A bit of green in a glass to keep him fresh, he says. And a holder for his blower, so that he needn't burn up what Amy calls his mustaches, I think. I made it like those Beth invented, a big butterfly with a fat body and black and yellow wings, worseted feelers and bead eyes. It took his fancy immensely, and he put it on his mantelpiece as an article of virtue. So it was rather a failure after all. Poor as he is, he didn't forget a servant or a child in the house, and not a soul here, from the French laundry woman to Miss Norton, forgot him. I was so glad of that. They got up a masquerade and had a gay time New Year's Eve. I didn't mean to go down, having no dress, but at the last minute Mrs. Kirk remembered some old brocades, and Miss Norton lent me lace and feathers. So I dressed up as Mrs. Malaprop, and sailed in with a mask on. No one knew me, for I disguised my voice. No one dreamed of the silent, haughty Miss March, for they think I'm very stiff and cool, and most of them, and so I'm... Okay, they think I'm very stiff and cool. Most of them, I'm so... And most of them. And so, I am whippersnap. I don't understand this. Let me reread this. No one knew me, for I disguised my voice, and no one dreamed of the silent, haughty Miss March, for they think I'm very stiff and cool, most of them, and so I am to whippersnappers. There it is. I got it right. Could dance and dress and burst into a nice derangement of epitaphs, like an allegory of the banks of the Nile. I enjoyed it very much, and when we unmasked, it was fun to see them stare at me. I heard one of the young men tell another that he knew I'd been an actress. In fact, he thought he remembered seeing me on one of the minor theaters. Meg will relish that joke. Mr. Bear was Nick Bottom, and Tina was Tatiana, a perfect little fairy in his arms. To see them dance was quite a landscape, to use a Teddyism. I had a very happy New Year after all, and when I thought it over in my room, I felt as if I was getting on a little in spite of my many failures. For I am cheerful all the time now, work with a will, and take more interest in other people than I used to, which is satisfactory. Bless you all. Ever loving Joe. Thank you for joining me tonight on Little Women Live. Got to put my hairpins in the bathroom because in the morning I get up and I go in the bathroom and I brush my teeth and I brush my hair and I put my bun in and I get dressed for the day. Thank you so much. Linda, you tell Matt to behave himself and do as he's told, and I'll be praying. Okay? And I put mine up most of the time. I had my hair down the other day and my daughter said, your hair is so long. People don't see it down. That's why they don't realize how long it actually is. I love you guys. Take care. Good night. God bless. And I hope you sleep well. I'm going to try. Mwah.